Hey guys, welcome to Cinematographs. Picture this, it's a Friday and you're getting ready to enjoy your weekend. You sit back on the couch, you open up Netflix and click on Fincher's first film in this genre in 9 years. It's a black screen, but then the credits roll. And immediately, you're taken back to Seven with the intro. But you can tell that everything, the images, the text, is a lot smoother. And yeah, you're excited. In the first couple seconds of this film, you already feel like you're entering familiar territory. This is the genre that Fincher is most known for and arguably the best at, the dark thriller type stuff. The Killer is about a hitman, only named The Killer, who fails his mission and now he has to travel around cleaning up his mistakes while also battling his lack of emotion. And I have a lot to say about this film. First, and this is probably the most obvious thing if you've already seen it, this is the most Fincher a Fincher film has ever been. Like I said before, the film runs smooth on a technical level. It almost feels like a video game because of how it operates. It's mechanical, not human. Every single aspect feels calculated, and Fincher has always been known for that, but this film specifically feels like it was crafted directly from his own mind. Also, in a familiar way, the tone is cynical. Like if John Doe started narrating his everyday process before he went on his killing spree, or if the narrator from Fight Club stopped talking about consumerism and focused more on the entire world as a whole. And the film is coincidentally the same writer as both of those. There are so many themes that are similar in his films. There's voyeurism, hatred of the world, references to Rear Window, snappy editing. It's all there. It's almost a culmination of everything you've known about Fincher before. Each shot shows off a pretty balance of colors and a striking composition in the set design. One thing I did notice is that throughout the film there's some very obvious shaky cam usage here, and Fincher has used shaky cam before, but it almost seems bouncier in this film. I'm assuming that's to mimic the kind of shake that the killer or snipers in general get when looking through the scope of their rifle, because it feels too deliberate to just be shaky cam. It's also the most auteur Fincher has ever been, even if he hates that title, but I think that he's kind of making fun of it now. I once read that Fincher sees himself in John Doe by analyzing the world and crafting images about it, and yeah, the same applies here. Fincher is the equivalent of the killer in a filmmaker way. He's talked about before how he loves to maintain objectivity in his shots, with the camera observing every detail. But this film is like what happens when the main character also has that meticulous objectivity. You don't know if you're watching the film through the killer's eyes or Fincher's eyes, because they're kind of the same person. And the film is good. It is. But there are some pretty big reasons why it isn't fully great, in the same way that I've associated some of his other films. First, it feels like Fincher has the least to say in this one, or at least the issues are the least relatable. And that's fine because not every film has to address something, but the film isn't relatable like at all. Because yeah, the killer criticizes the current world, talking about Wordle, Postmates, monotony, and probably things that everyone hates. But like I said before, the killer is so objective that he separates himself from the world, which means that the audience does as well. That's the thing about this film, it operates without emotion. In fact, the film is so cruel that it more so sucks the emotion out of you. There was this one part where a character's neck got snapped and I kinda just sighed because the film doesn't give you the time to feel any way about it. I can't even comment on anyone's performances aside from Fassbender's because none of them were in the movie longer than 10 minutes. But at the same time, that is the point of the film, and it's hard to actually consider those things flaws because I'm pretty sure Fincher intended things to be that way. It's so interesting in that this film is as technically perfect as Fincher can get, which is very close to perfect, but it's also the coldest he can get. It doesn't contain the same levels of emotion that is present in even the craziest of his works. Things happen and then life continues. The film maintains the exact same tone throughout. We get one sense of humanity in the first 30 minutes and then quite literally no more. And in between, you start to believe that the killer is wearing down from being too morally gray, but those cracks in his resolve close as quickly as they opened. We know that what he's doing is fueled by emotion, but we can't see it nor feel it. And that's the thing this film lacks, feeling. It reminds me of Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men, but that film at least had other characters to balance out his lack of emotion. But here there aren't really any social relationships worth noting because everyone he interacts with dies. This is quite literally the film that would be created if you just followed Anton around for like 2 weeks and see what he does for fun. Also, the writing is kind of weird in that it feels like it's trying to be different, like video game dialogue. It's not robotic, it's just almost quirky. Not in the killer's thoughts, but in every other character's. For me, it's also writing that line between human and non-human. There's something off-putting about it. My overall rating is a 7.5 out of 10. And before anyone starts, I'm a big fan of Fincher. He's the guy who got me into films and I admire his work as a director. I think The Killer is an enjoyable film, but it's hard to watch something that's so devoid of life. At the same time, Fincher doesn't make you hate the experience because there's just such good filmmaking techniques in place. And the story is actually interesting. It's a little bit sick in how Fincher combines darkness with perfection, but that's kind of his thing. I also very much love Fincher's use of sound here. I think he had a lot more fun with it in this film than others based on the fact that half of the soundtrack is quite literally the Smiths. It really just is the most Fincher-like film. I think he made it specifically for that purpose. He criticizes people for being perverts, but he's just like them for creating this medium. It's super Hitchcockian, super self-reflexive, but super cool. It's not his best film, but it feels like it would be his signature film, like an explanation of everything else he's ever created before. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing to be aware of.